lied about a fling with the best man years ago. He found out and exposed us at the wedding dinner. So I don't even know where to start, really. But maybe the best place is just straight in the middle of the mess. Because I still can't believe any of it happened. I feel like I'm floating outside of myself and I'm watching my own life crumble from some balcony in the sky. But no, this really happened, and it happened a few days ago. And what's worse is that it didn't happen in a silent way. It happened in front of everyone I love, and now I don't even know who I am anymore. And I'm the one who did it. Yeah, I really did this. It was my wedding day, my actual wedding day. After all the months of planning and all the money we blew on things I didn't even care about, and the dress I spent hours crying over because the sleeves didn't sit right, and the florist that messed up the centerpieces, and my mom stressing me out over every little thing, I finally got to the actual day. And believe me, it was beautiful, like really beautiful. Everything was perfect, like it was a scene from a movie, and I remember thinking that morning that nothing could possibly go wrong. And perhaps it was that thinking that jinxed everything. My husband looked so proud and calm. He always looked calm, and that was one of the first things I loved about him. The ceremony went fine. I mean, I was nervous. I think he was too. His hands were cold when we held them together, but I thought maybe that was just wedding jitters or something. I kept brushing it off because I knew weddings made everyone weird, but he said the vows so perfectly, and I said mine even though my voice cracked, and the kiss felt warm and real, and everyone clapped, and I told myself I could finally breathe, and for a while it felt like I actually could. Thankfully, when it was reception time, everything started to feel more relaxed. People were eating and my little cousins were running around and there was wine. My entire family was present, as well as my husband's family, my colleagues from work, his colleagues as well. We had gotten married in front of everyone that was important to us, and we were now celebrating, and I remember that I kept thinking that this was the part where I finally got to be happy. But then came the toasts, the usual stuff. My maid of honor told a funny and embarrassing story about when we were in college. My dad gave one that was super emotional and I could see him fighting tears. Then when it was time for the best man. That was the first time I felt a pang of unease during the reception dinner. I don't even know how you explain this. So Larry, who was my husband's best friend, like an old school best friend. They've known each other since they were kids, and he's funny and loud and everyone likes him. He's that kind of guy that always knows how to make people laugh without trying too hard. And yeah, I knew him before I even started dating my husband, and yeah, we always got along. I mean, more than got along, but I'll get there. So Larry stood up with his glass in hand and started talking. And at first it's normal, like really sweet. He said my husband was lucky to have me and that I light up a room and all that stuff people say at weddings, right? But then my husband started laughing, like full-on laughing, and not the sweet kind either, not like proud or joyful or nervous laughter. It was the kind of weird laughter you'd expect to hear from a maniac. It sounded sarcastic. And before I knew it, he got up. I thought he was going to add to the toast, or maybe say something funny back. But instead he just says this thing that still plays on a loop in my head. He said of course Larry thinks he's lucky to have me, because Larry was upset he was not the one marrying me. And I remember feeling like the air just dropped, like the whole room tilted a little. At first I thought he was joking. I swear I did. I thought maybe they had worked out some kind of inside joke toast thing, because people do that sometimes, especially guys who've been friends forever. And I remember I let out a playful and uncomfortable laughter, because deep down, I felt like my husband was taking the joke too far. While I was laughing, I reached for his hand and tried to pull him down to sit and maybe whisper to him, like, "What are you doing?" But he just pulled away from me. Then he looked at everyone like he wanted to be sure they heard every word he was about to say. I was curious. What was going on? What was he about to say? Why was he acting weird and hostile towards me all of a sudden? All these questions were racing through my mind at that point, but I didn't have an answer to any of them. Then he finally said it. He said he knew the only reason I married him was because he's more financially stable than Larry. That I didn't choose him out of love, but out of logic, out of calculation. And that I've been having an affair with Larry. Once he made that declaration, it felt like there was this heavy thing that just dropped and exploded. I could feel the world around me start to spin. And of course, the room didn't stay quiet, it just went weird. Like there's this low, confused noise that got louder and louder by the second, like when someone drops a glass and no one knows what to say. People were looking at me, then looking at Larry, then looking back at my husband, and I felt like my face was on fire. I kept shaking my head, saying that's not true, telling him to stop, but I could hear my own voice and it didn't even sound convincing. But here's the thing. It was true. I didn't mean for it to be true. God, I didn't even know how I got there. It's not like I planned to betray anyone. It's not like I woke up one day and said, you know what sounds fun? Screwing up the one good thing I had. But it happened anyway. It started small, like really small. From late night texts, when my husband and I had just started dating. Jokes that maybe pushed the line but never quite crossed it. Then one month when my husband, at that time my boyfriend, traveled out of town for work, and Larry came by to drop something off, and we drank wine, and the night got heavy and too honest. And before I knew it, it became this quiet thing between us. We never said what it was, but we also didn't stop it. And I kept telling myself it was just the stress. But it wasn't just a one-time thing. Throughout that month that my boyfriend was away, Larry and I kept hooking up, but it became more than intimacy. Before my boyfriend had traveled, we were having issues, and he took that trip because he felt a little distance would do us some good. And within that time, I fell in love with Larry. He became my confidant. I told him everything, from how I felt to everything that was going on with me. I didn't know what was going to happen when my boyfriend came back. I honestly thought that it would end, but after my boyfriend came back, it never ended. I just got better at hiding it. Or at least I thought I did. Because barely 2 weeks after he came back, my boyfriend asked me if I had been with anyone else since he traveled. I didn't know how I was going to tell him that I had a fling with his best friend, and most importantly, how was I going to tell him that I was still hooking up with his best friend? So of course, I lied. I told him that I had been faithful to him, and that my heart belonged to him alone. All the while, I was still cheating on him with Larry. Even on the eve of the day he proposed to me, I slept with Larry. I was in love with Larry, but I needed to make a smart choice because as much as I loved Larry more, I needed my future to be secure. While I was at that wedding dinner, I was so terrified. I don't even know when and how he found out. My husband, I mean. Maybe it was something he saw, maybe a message I forgot to delete, maybe he just felt it. You know how sometimes people just know? Like their body tells them before their brain does. I didn't know exactly how, I was just trying to put some things together. But if he knew since, then why did he go on with the wedding? I kept thinking, but nothing was adding up, and then it clicked. The way he looked at me made my heart crack. He looked at me like I was the devil itself. I began thinking about how I kept smiling at him through all of it, how I let him plan our future and talk about kids, and pick our honeymoon spot and write his vows while I was still hooking up with Larry. And I was so weak that I didn't have the guts to end or even own up to my shortcomings. So then as we're standing there, in that crowded room, and my whole life was cracked open in front of my friends and family, and Larry didn't say anything. He just stood there, holding the stupid glass, and his face looked like he's been hit by a truck. Because I don't think he thought it would come out like that either. He always told me what happened between us wasn't a mistake, and that we were meant to be together, but I was fighting it. But when it was time for him to fight for me, he went completely mute. I guess all those words didn't mean anything. I remember Larry said he loved his best friend, but he loved me too much to let me go. And maybe he meant it, but he didn't mean it enough to defend me. I was just frozen, just completely frozen. My legs wouldn't move, and my throat was dry, and the words I should have said just didn't exist anymore. I just kept shaking my head and telling him it's not true, even though it is. And I know the way my voice sounded only made me look more guilty, and I could hear someone gasp and someone else whisper. And it hit me that my mom was sitting 3 tables over, probably crying, and my dad was going to be furious, and I will never live this down. But I was too scared to even look at their faces. I just kept my face forward with my eyes stuck on my husband. My husband just chuckled and said it's funny how I couldn't say anything other than saying that it wasn't true. He said that I didn't even bother asking how he knew. Before I could even mutter any word in defense, he turned away. My husband walked away, and his brother followed him. My husband handed his glass to someone and walked out of the room with his brother. Everyone's eyes were stuck on him until he exited the hall, and once he was no longer in sight, everyone's gaze shifted back to me. They kept looking at me like they were waiting for me to do something or say something or explain, but I had nothing left, nothing smart or kind or honest, just this mess I made and the silence it left behind. I don't remember how the rest of the night went. I think I left, or maybe someone pulled me out. I remember sitting on the floor of the hotel bathroom, still in my dress, just staring at the wall like if I stayed very still, time would rewind. But it didn't. It never does. Through that night, people called and texted, some with disgust, most just needed to know if it was all real. But I didn't have an answer for them. I couldn't exactly tell people that I was cheating on my husband with his best friend and best man. I keep thinking about what I lost, and what I ruined, and how stupid and selfish I was, and how I convinced myself I could have both. A husband who was safe and kind and strong, and a friend who was wild and alive and made me feel like a different person. But life doesn't work that way. You don't get both. You don't get to cheat and lie and still pretend you're the kind of person who deserves a lot of love. But I really think I could. And I didn't know what was going to happen next. All I know is that I stood in a white dress and made promises I had already broken, and that my husband saw right through me and exposed me in front of everyone we know. The next day I told myself I had to try. I couldn't just leave it the way it ended. I know how it looked, but he had no proof. He just made a scene, dropped a bomb in front of everyone, and left me standing there. I kept telling myself he had to be wrong, that maybe it was all just suspicion, something he built up in his head. Maybe Larry said something, maybe someone made a stupid joke, maybe it all just came together in his mind and exploded at the wrong time. People don't just throw away a whole marriage on a hunch, right? I needed to talk to him, to explain, to make him see that what he thought he knew wasn't solid, because no one saw anything. No one had anything, not even him. And if I could just get in front of him and tell him that, maybe he'd start to question it too. Maybe there was still a way to fix it. So I drove to his place. It felt weird even walking up to the door. My feet were shaking and my palms were wet, and I kept rehearsing what I was going to say, but none of it sounded right. I was just hoping he'd open the door and let me in, and we could sit down and be real for a minute. Just him and me, with no guests and no chaos and no rumors. But it wasn't him who opened the door. It was his brother. He didn't even look surprised to see me. He just opened the door and crossed his arms like he'd been waiting for this. He didn't invite me in, nor did he smile. He just stood there with this tight, cold look in his eyes. I asked if my husband was home. He didn't answer that. He just told me to leave. He said I shouldn't be there and that I should go find Larry instead. I tried to stay calm, and I told him this wasn't what he thought. I told him nothing happened between Larry and I tried to explain to him that I just needed to talk to my husband, that everything had gone off the rails, and I didn't even understand why. I said it was all a big mistake and that he was wrong, and he laughed very loudly. And it sounded like he wasn't even surprised I was lying straight to his face. It was like he'd already made peace with the fact that I was going to try and spin it. He said I was despicable. That was the word he used, despicable, for still trying to deny it. He said I wasn't even smart about it, that if I was going to betray someone, I could have at least kept it out of the church, that if I had an ounce of respect for anyone in that room, I wouldn't have done what I did. I froze, because in that second, I knew that he knew everything. I didn't even have to ask how. He said he and my husband saw us, not before the wedding, but after. Yeah, after I took my vows at the altar, right after the ceremony, before the reception started, I went to the back of the church. I told someone I needed a few minutes to fix my makeup. But the truth is, Larry had pulled me aside, telling me that he needed to talk. I remember every second of that conversation like my brain etched it into stone just to punish me with it later. He said I had made a mistake and that I knew it too. He told me I didn't love my husband, that I loved him. He said that I was scared to admit it and that I married the safe choice because it was easier. I told him to stop. I told him it was my decision and it was final. I told him he had to let it go. Then he kissed me, and I should have stopped it and I should have just walked away. I should have shoved him off and headed to the reception and smiled like nothing happened, but I didn't. I tried for like a second, but I didn't try hard enough. My hands went up like I was going to push him, but I didn't push. I just stayed there. And then I leaned in, and we didn't just kiss. There was a small side room near the back of the church, just a plain little room with a coat rack and a few chairs and a stained glass window that faced away from the street. I don't know how we even ended up in there. I don't know if he led me in or if I went first. It all felt like this haze, like something separate from real life, like I was floating through someone else's mistake. But it happened, and I thought no one saw us. I really did. We were fast and we were quiet. It was stupid and reckless, but I thought it was hidden. I thought I'd buried it deep enough that it wouldn't catch up to me, that we could just go to the wedding dinner and eat cake and fake smiles and dance like nothing was broken. But they saw us. My husband and his brother had been looking for me. They were wondering why I was late to the reception. I guess they came around back. Maybe they saw us come out of the room. Maybe they heard something. Maybe it was just enough to know exactly what had gone down in there. Whatever it was real. And that was all they needed. While I was still contemplating all that, my husband's brother leaned in and said, "We saw everything, and we heard everything. Every single part." My eyes popped open like I was paralyzed, and all I could do was intensify my gaze. I just stood there at his doorstep, listening to his brother call me out, and I couldn't even say anything back. I opened my mouth like I was going to argue again, but no words came out. Because I knew he wasn't mistaken. He said my husband didn't want to see me and told me that he was staying at their cousin's place for a few days, that he needed time and space, and that I wasn't welcome anywhere near him. I tried one last time, telling him that I just needed my husband for a little while and maybe we could just talk, and that maybe it was more complicated than it looked. But he just shook his head and said I didn't deserve a conversation. Not anymore. Then he closed the door and I stood there, staring at the wood, trying to think of something else I could do. But there wasn't anything. Not after that. I got in my car and sat behind the wheel for a long time before I even started it. I just sat there letting everything hit me. And not just the shame or the guilt, but the fact that it was really over. Not maybe, not possibly, but definitely. He saw us in the act. And there was no way that image was going to leave his head. There was no getting around it, no rewriting the story, no excuses or angles left. My husband saw the truth with his own eyes. And even if I wanted to pretend it didn't matter, or that it didn't count because it happened after the vows, I knew that was crap. I'd already betrayed him long before that kiss. It didn't start in that room. That room was just the final blow. I didn't want to give up, but I didn't know how I was going to say anything else. I keep thinking about how fast everything changed. 1 second I was a bride. I was smiling for pictures and fixing my dress and thinking about our first dance. The next second, I'm a memory people will whisper about, a story people will tell when they talk about weddings gone wrong, a warning. And Larry? I haven't heard from him since that night, not a single word. I think maybe he's ashamed. Maybe he's avoiding me because he doesn't want to take the fall with me. Maybe he thought I'd be someone different after all this, someone strong or unapologetic or willing to blow it all up for him. But I'm not. I'm just broken. I don't even know what I want from him anymore. Maybe nothing. Because I wanted love, and now I don't have that. I wanted safety, and I destroyed it. I wanted more, and I ended up with less than nothing. I'm just alone now, and I just can't stop thinking about how my husband made a mockery of me in front of hundreds of people. It's just as bad as me cheating on him. Update. It's been a few weeks now. I've been dragging myself through each day like it's a punishment. I don't even look in mirrors anymore because I am angry at my own shadow. My phone's silent and my inbox is empty. Everyone has distanced themselves from me and my friends don't reach out anymore. Or maybe they do, and I just don't open the messages. Either way, it doesn't matter. The world feels too loud and too quiet at the same time. I've been sitting in my apartment with the blinds shut, living off cereal and old delivery leftovers. I can't sleep and I can't work either. I've watched the ceiling more than anything else. I'm not just sad, I'm ashamed. Every time I think about that wedding dinner night, it tightens in my chest like a screw. I remember everything in incredible detail, from my dress to our vows to his face. I remember his hand pulling away from mine, that look he gave me before everything collapsed. And now, the weight of it all doesn't come from him yelling or slamming doors or losing control. It's how quiet he's been. That's what's wrecking me the most. But I knew I couldn't stay hidden in my house forever. I felt like I needed to confront my husband after everything that had happened. Sure, he hated me, and of course I was mad at him for embarrassing me. I had to speak to him face to face, and not in a text, not in some note. I needed to stand in front of him and talk it out. So I found out where he was staying. I got dressed, put myself together the best I could, and showed up at the place. I knocked softly and waited while my heart was pounding like it was trying to escape my body. When he opened the door, it hit me just how much I missed him. He looked like he'd been through a war and was still standing. He looked at me and asked with a cold voice, "What do you want?" I started talking. I didn't have a script or anything, I just let it spill out. I told him I was sorry. I told him I was stupid and selfish and blind. I told him I missed him, and I still loved him, and I didn't expect anything. I just needed him to know that I forgave him as well for embarrassing me the way he did. He scoffed and looked at me like I was some lunatic. He didn't yell or even argue. He just shook his head and asked for the wedding ring back. I looked at him and asked him if he was sure. I told him if he took the ring, that would be it. We'd be done forever, and there would be no coming back. I told him there would be no what-ifs later. I was hoping maybe something in him would still care enough to hesitate. I was giving him an ultimatum, and I was hoping that maybe the part of him that once loved me would show up and give me some kind of sign that there was something left to hold on to. But he didn't even flinch. He just held out his hand. So I took off the ring. My fingers were shaking, and I didn't want to let go of it, but I dropped it in his palm, and he didn't even look at it. Just closed his hand around it like it was nothing more than a receipt from a store he regretted going to. I thought that was it. But the next morning, I woke up to divorce papers slid under my apartment door. He wasn't done with me, not even close. He just took his time and stayed quiet until the divorce process was completed, which honestly made it worse because I didn't see it coming. I was back at work, trying to function like a real human again. Still not sleeping much, and I was not eating properly as well. Every time someone said wedding or church, or even mentioned the word husband, I would twitch like I was allergic to the words, but I was trying to get better, and then it started. It was little things first. One day I walked into the break room and everything went silent. My coworkers stopped talking like I wasn't supposed to hear what they were saying. I caught a few of them looking at me sideways. Then my boss pulled me into his office and said that there had been concerns about my professionalism. He didn't say much more than that, just gave me this long, awkward talk about how our company had values and image. I didn't understand what the hell was happening until someone from another department finally told me. My ex-husband sent an email to my boss, my coworkers, HR, and my clients. Anyone I'd ever worked with in the company. He sent a whole damn packet, from screenshots to texts between me and Larry. Old flirty messages, things I forgot I even said. Then there were pictures from the church. Yeah, from the wedding day. I don't know who took it, but I guessed it was either my ex-husband or even his brother. But it was blurry, angled through some cracked door, and it showed enough. Me and Larry were kissing, touching, and we were way too close. In that room, it looked exactly like what it was. And there was a video. Yeah, a video. The audio was trash, muffled as hell. But you could still make out Larry's voice saying that I married the wrong man, that I didn't love my husband, that I only chose him for his money. He sent all of it, and not just to work. He posted it too. There was a Google Drive link on his Instagram bio for 2 whole days with the words, "The truth, since she won't say it." Then he locked his account. He left the link up just long enough for the internet to do its thing. People downloaded it and shared it, and naturally, I became a joke. The girl who cheated on her wedding day, the girl who picked the rich guy, then got caught hooking up with his best man behind a stained glass door. My face got posted on wedding fail threads, and someone on TikTok even used it as some storytime background while doing their makeup. My phone started blowing up with unknown numbers. Some were calling me a homewrecker, while others called me worse. I lost 2 clients. My boss told me to take an extended leave. I knew what that really meant. They didn't want the drama anywhere near the company name. And the thing that messed me up the most? My own family saw it. My dad called me one morning. He didn't yell or act mad. He just said one thing: "I hope it was worth it." Then he hung up. I haven't heard from him since. That's what my husband did. He made sure I didn't just lose him. He made sure I lost everything around him, too. My job, my reputation, my friends, my family, and my name. He destroyed me entirely. I was so foolish to think that I could hide it. I thought I could control the damage, but he flipped it on me, made me live in it and choke on it. I tried messaging him after, just once though. He never answered. And now every waking moment feels like a drain on me. I don't go out much. I don't make eye contact in public. I deleted most of my socials. I don't check tags anymore. He messed with my life, and I'll never forgive him for that.